One thing that everybody has been wanting to see happen for a long time and finally has been happening over the past year or two is the rent prices coming down. Because for too long now, the rent has been too damn high. And it's really starting to happen in a meaningful way because there has been a huge wave of newly built multifamily units that are still being delivered to the market right now. And this new supply is hitting the market at the same exact time that demand is weakening for all types of real estate because more young folks are living with their parents because the cost of living is too high. They can't find a good job these days with the horrible job market. And so it's just like the perfect storm of all this stuff coming together at once. And the result is higher vacancies and falling rent prices. On a national level, rents are dropping. The median U.S. apartment rent fell 1% in November and now averages $1,367 a month. And this now marks 4 consecutive months in a row of rent declines. And rents are now down 5.2% from the peak rent levels back in 2022. And you got to understand that since 2022, we have had a massive amount of inflation. Guys, we have talked about this to death on this channel of how much the cost of living has gone up. And a lot of people will, scoff at that and say, oh, 5.2% is nothing, Michael, compared to how much it went up. But consider inflation, guys. Consider the fact that inflation has pushed everything up tremendously. And when we've had as much inflation as we've had over the past 4 years, that 5.2% 2% decline is actually a lot larger than you think because when you see prices drop in a high inflation environment, it works both ways, guys. So that drop is actually much more significant because everything else is going up in price. So something that's going down right now relative to how much inflation we've had, it's probably more like a 10 or 15% drop in rent. So before you sit there and say that 5.2% 2% is not enough, would you rather have it go in the other direction? Would you rather see the rent prices going up or would you rather see it going down and have that downward pressure on rent work in your favor when you adjust for inflation? And all the real estate experts, all the real estate economists were saying that 2025 was going to be the year that the housing market was going to come roaring back to life, both with sales and rent prices. And man, were they wrong. The problem is demand for all types of housing, both rent and sale, has collapsed this year. And now on a national level, multifamily vacancies sit at a 7.2%, which is a record high for empty rentals. We've never seen this many empty rentals ever, not even going back to 2008. In fact, I would argue that back in 2008, as somebody who was doing real estate back then, the demand for rentals was very high back then, guys, because nobody wanted to touch real estate in terms of buying. Everybody was worried about, losing their money if you could afford to buy or you could qualify. And oftentimes it was quite a bit cheaper to be a renter than to buy even as prices were coming down. So the demand for rent was actually pretty high back between 2008 and 2012. Whereas now this time really is different because both sides of the housing market are seeing suppressed demand. CoStar, which is a big property management firm, they reported the largest monthly rent declines in 15 years since they've been keeping track. And the main reason they say this is happening is because younger adults cannot afford to form new households. And that's something that we've been talking about a lot here on the channel. You have 1.5% of 18 to 34-year-olds living at home, which is the highest level in years. And obviously, it's because the rent prices as well as the price to buy a home has gone up way too much. The job market is non-existent right now. And overall, there's an affordability crisis in general with just the cost of living. Like I made that video the other day, guys. It's not just housing anymore. It's everything. Housing is just one piece of the unaffordability puzzle now. And everybody kept pushing, oh, you should invest in REITs, 'cause REITs are a great way to invest in real estate without having too much personal risk or exposure. And a REIT stands for a real estate investment trust where basically, you have an investment fund that pulls together a bunch of money and they buy investment properties and that return that they get is paid out to you in the form of a dividend when you own the REIT. Well, guess what? Major REITs this year are all down. Avalon Bay Equity Residential and Camden Property Trust are all down year to date because these companies can't make money anymore like they used to be able to. You know, in an environment where property taxes and insurance and other carrying costs for any type of real estate have risen as fast as they have, it's almost impossible to keep up with those costs and continue charging the rent necessary to make a decent profit. Guys, this is a problem that landlords across the board all over the country, both residential and commercial, are facing. And some cities are actually seeing some very significant rent declines due to the poor economy. Like Las Vegas is the perfect example. Las Vegas is seeing lower tourism, a weaker job market, and weaker rent demand all at once. And you know, look at it from the people who live there, their point of view. How can you continue to pay sky-high rents if you're only making a fraction of what you were making before because the entire city relies on tourism dollars? You know, if you're a waitress working on tips or a stripper working on tips or whatever else you do out there in Vegas, well, that's a problem now, isn't it? Boston, Massachusetts is seeing a similar thing play out. They have fewer foreign students coming in due to the tight immigration laws we have now. And they are seeing reduced federal biotech funding. Maybe one small sliver of the federal government cutting back on spending, but it is having an effect on the city. Austin, Texas is seeing the biggest rent corrections due to a huge supply glut of multifamily properties hitting the market over there. And people have been voting with their feet, so to speak, when it comes to rent prices, guys. Some of the most popular searched rental markets by people trying to find more affordable housing are looking in places like Cincinnati, Ohio, Atlanta, Georgia, Kansas City, Missouri, Washington, D.C. In fact, the Midwest is now 11 of the top 30 highest renter demand cities in the country. So, people are waking up and realizing that, hey, I need to live somewhere where my finances are going to be more stable. I can't afford these massive swings in cost of living. I just can't keep up with it and it's very stressful and no one needs that. And I can personally vouch for somebody who grew up in the Midwest, guys. Like even today, almost 20 years since I left, it's still a pretty affordable place to live, just like it was when I grew up there relative to the rest of the country. Have things gone up? Absolutely. In fact, home prices are still going up over there, but relative to people's incomes, people can still afford it. And that's why the prices continue to go up along with a big inventory shortage they still have there. And even though multifamily builds are starting to slow down now, the sheer volume that's been built over the past several years is continuously being completed and continuously being delivered to the market. And this is good news whether you're a buyer or a renter because the more inventory that's available in general, whether it's for sale or for rent, it helps you with downward price pressure because the more choices that people have, the more competitive sellers and landlords need to be in order to have you live in their place or sell their place to you. And the thing is, the strongest rental base in the country has always been the young professionals. You know, young college graduates or young people starting to form a family that are, you know, entering the workforce or whatever. Those are the people that have always been the strongest demographics for renters. And since more of those people than ever are living at home right now, this is going to have a severe impact on the market. And this is all great. This is economics playing out the way that it should. Unless the government gets involved and tries to find ways to subsidize more of this stuff and put everybody on Section 8 rent, this is going to have a big impact on downward rental prices. These days, it is more common than ever to hear about data breach after data breach where all of your personal information is exposed online and you can feel pretty helpless like there's not much to do about it. However, that's why today's video is sponsored by Delete Me. Delete Me is a hands-free subscription service that will remove your personal information that's being sold online. And Delete Me's privacy experts remove you from hundreds of data brokers all year long. And the problem is that data brokers can legally collect and sell all types of information about you. And some of the most dangerous data brokers are the websites that collect your personally identifiable information like your name, your address, phone, and relative names. And they sell it to anyone willing to pay for it. I've personally been using Delete Me for almost 2 years now, and I've been extremely satisfied with the service. So, make sure to get 20% off your Delete Me subscription by joining today using my link down below at jointdeleteme.com/Bordinero or use the QR code on the screen. Now, sellers or landlords are getting a huge reality check right now if they refuse to lower their prices because the longer your price is wrong, the longer your property sits on the market and ultimately the less you can collect in rent or the less you'll achieve in a sale. Especially in an environment like this where prices are coming down. Overpriced houses and rentals are sitting on the market longer than ever right now, and too many of these sellers and landlords are pricing their properties based on what things were going for back in 2022. It's like somehow there's a gap in their understanding of where the market is. They still think we're stuck in the past from 3 years ago. And this is something interesting here. The National Association of Realtors is now advising sellers to form their asking prices by looking at what comparable houses have sold in the neighborhood for in the last month or so. Like when I was doing real estate full-time as an agent, guys, whenever we would prepare a price for a seller or do a comparative market analysis, we would typically look at what homes were selling for in the past 3 to 6 months in the neighborhood. But the fact that the N is now recommending what's sold in just the last month suggests to me that the market is moving very fast in a downward direction. Meaning that what a home sold for 6 months ago is no longer as valid as it used to be 10 or 15 years ago when prices were more stable. And this chart right here shows you why pricing the home appropriately from the very beginning is so important, because what it shows you is the longer the home sits on the market at a higher price, the longer it takes to sell and the more you have to end up chopping off the asking price in order to get it sold. Like the homes that are selling in 0 to 7 days are priced properly and they don't have to knock anything off the asking price. Okay? Versus at the bottom of this chart, homes that are sitting on the market for close to a year end up having to chop off 10% or more off the asking price to get it sold. So, it's a losing proposition for sellers to take this path, because not only is it going to take way longer, you have all those extra carrying costs with the property, but you're going to have to knock off more off your selling price. Some sellers are getting with the program because 20% of active listings as of October did have a price cut according to Realtor.com. And that's generally higher than what we've seen in the past couple of years. But it's only 20%, guys. In reality, probably 90% of the homes sitting on the market need a price cut. That's why they are not selling. Only about probably 10 to 20% of properties out there are priced appropriately and end up selling within a very short time frame. In fact, they say that setting the price too high can make a listing sit on the market up to 5 times as long as a listing that was appropriately priced from the beginning. So, you can end up wasting a tremendous amount of time as a home seller if you don't get it right from day one. And let's face it, the longer you own a property, the more money it costs you. It's not just time at stake, it's also money as well. You have to pay more to own the property longer, have more carrying costs. At the same time, if you continuously lower the price over the next 6 months, you're going to get a lower sale price than you would have gotten if you just listed it appropriately from the beginning. If you're actually serious about getting a house sold in this market right now, if you list a house for sale and you have a week or two go by without much interest or without receiving an offer, I guarantee you the price is too high, because if it wasn't, you would have a lot of interest from the beginning, multiple showings, lots of interest right from the get-go. And that's a clear sign that your price is too high. And after already just 1 month has passed, people are already going to sense that maybe you're getting desperate. Maybe there's something wrong with the house. How come it's not selling? And beyond that, the buyer suspicion grows even further. And how do I know that more homes need a price cut? Because when we look at the homes that have actually sold as of October, 57% of homes that sold had at least one price cut, which indicates that a significant number of sellers had unrealistic expectations from the beginning. But in October, only 20% of homes received a price cut, which suggests there's still a glut of homes that need a price cut if they really want to sell. 4 homes that actually sold this year with a price cut, the sale price was cut on average 3.7% below the asking price. And once again, guys, going back to the rent reductions that we've seen this year, that might not sound like a lot, but 3.7% reduction along with high inflation that we've been experiencing is probably more like a real-world 10% price cut on homes that have been selling. And in just 1 year, that's significant, because I always define a housing crash as home prices coming down roughly 20% within a 5-year period. Well, prices have only really been coming down for the past year or two, depending on the market. So, we still have plenty of time to go. And if it's already come down by 10% adjusted for inflation in 1 year, well, it looks like we're headed into a housing crash. And don't forget, that's just the average among all the homes that are sold. Clearly, a lot of homes have to drop the price by a lot more than 3.7% to get it sold. And anybody who thinks that they're just going to delist their property right now because there's so many sellers doing that and that the springtime in 2026 is going to be a much better time to sell, good luck with that. We're talking 3 or 4 months away at best right now in this economy. I mean, what kind of miracle do you think is going to happen that's going to just magically turn things around where you're going to have your property sell for a much higher price in just 3 or 4 months from now? Like, get real. And don't forget, guys, if you need a real estate agent, whether you're a buyer or a seller anywhere in the United States, I can set you up with a real estate agent 100% free. All you got to do is use the link down in the description below. Fill out a short form and one of my real estate partners will reach out to you ASAP, and it is 100% free. And if you use it, it not only helps you, but it helps the channel, and I appreciate it. Now, one thing I haven't brought up in a while is property taxes, because I kind of hate talking about this, mainly because property taxes are essentially unconstitutional. And it's the county's way of robbing you of your equity and stealing from people who own homes. And in pretty much nowhere across the country is property taxes such a hot-button issue than it is in Texas, because Texas has some of the highest property taxes in the nation, at least the monthly bill that people pay and the percentage they are charged, because Texas is a no-income tax state. And this is one of the main ways that they raise revenue there. And Texas has been in a lot of trouble over the past couple of years with proof that school districts are the #1 reason that property taxes have been going up. And it's all based on fraud. There's no grounds for these taxes to continue going up. Yet, they do continue to go up. And the governor in Texas, Greg Abbott, is trying to get re-elected over there and is running on, "Oh, well, we're going to lower your property taxes." Well, guess what? Remember the other day when I made a video talking about how any politician that promises to solve the affordability crisis is 100% lying? This is no different, guys, because here's a politician that's running on lowering the cost of living by lowering property taxes, yet with no real plan to actually do so. And I ain't telling you who to vote for in Texas. I don't live in Texas. Doesn't matter to me. I'm just telling you that anybody who promises this is straight up lying. And they're saying that if Texas were to lower their property taxes, and they would have to raise taxes in some other area in order to make up for the lost revenue, especially for the school districts that are sucking everybody dry. And how I know for sure it's a lie is because Governor Abbott over there is continuously running on the slogan of fighting property taxes while avoiding all the messy details of how they're actually going to achieve that. And the local county governments over there continue to add different layers of managers and deputies and assistants that continue inflating the budgets, and the school districts just get hungrier and hungrier for more as they get used to a certain amount of revenue. And this is how bad people over there are getting screwed in Texas, guys. Ample. Okay, in Keller City, Texas, you have a city manager that is making $176,000 a year that says, "We need to save money." But those savings completely vanish every time one of these guys gets a pay raise over there. So, the city ends up paying the same or even more for the staff while the locals continue to see their property taxes go up. Another city in Texas now has 10 employees working in its communications department, whatever they do. But in the past, having 2 to 3 people was enough. But now they need 7 extra people. Well, that's kind of interesting, especially in the age of AI when we seem to be able to easily replace those types of jobs. All of a sudden, they need more people making more money. How convenient. In Locac, they have multiple high-salary managers over there. One of them making even a $341,000 a year, guys. So, you want to know where your tax money is going. And all these people that defend property taxes and say, well, if we didn't have that, we wouldn't have all these roads and all the nice traffic lights and all these different things. Yeah. Well, guess what? Most of that money is being squandered on high salaries and school districts robbing you blind. That's the reality. A lot of people don't want to see that, but that's what's happening. And the critics of lowering property taxes are saying that, well, the cities are already struggling to maintain the roads and pay staff and fund services, and school districts would lose billions of dollars without a replacement tax. Well, maybe you should take a look at everyone's salary and how many people are working there, and start implementing some of the AI tactics that all these big corporations who are making record profits are doing. Maybe take a page from their book. I'm never in favor of people losing jobs, guys, but these just sound like flat-out excuses to keep overcharging people when it's completely unnecessary. And I wanted to bring this up because property taxes are a big issue here in Florida, but it's an even bigger issue in Texas. And it's one of the main reasons that people leave Texas after moving there looking for a more affordable place to live, because it is a significant portion of your budget, especially if you don't have a homestead exemption. Wow. Check out this place, guys. Here we have some real delusion going on. This house was purchased back in March of 2021 for only $620,000. And now in October of 2025, they listed it for sale for $1.85. $85 million, essentially tripling the price. Now, judging by the outside, it looks like they probably did some renovations. I don't know how much renovating they did, but it does look sort of newish. They definitely did some improvements probably. But to triple the price in just a few years, good luck with that. It's going to be interesting to see how long this house sits on the market. Now, one other thing I want to talk about is how owning a house versus a condo can actually be a lot closer in price than you think. Especially, I want to use Miami as an example here, guys, because one thing I hear all the time from people in the comments or just in real life, they say, "Oh, you know, the condo is too expensive. I'm going to move to a house. It's going to be much more affordable." Well, that's really not true, because when you look at similar price homes and condos, the expense gap is not nearly as much as you might think. Like, here's a perfect example. I'm going to show you guys two different listings in Miami Beach where I live of a similar price home and condo for sale. Okay, here's a house in Normandy, Iowa, listed for $1.2 million. And the estimated monthly payment is about $8,000 a month when you factor in property taxes, insurance, and principal and interest. But I'd be willing to bet that the home insurance is quite a bit higher than what's being quoted here. But when we look at a similar price condo nearby for $1.25 million, you can see that the monthly payment is about $2,000 a month higher at about $10,000. And one of the main reasons for that is the high HRA fees. And that's one of the arguments of why owning a home is so much cheaper, is because of high HRA fees. But you got to remember this. When you own a condo, those HRA fees cover basically everything, guys. They cover your insurance, your utilities, your trash pickup, all the maintenance of the pool, the gym, any sort of landscaping that you might have. All of the maintenance of the building, okay, that you have to do on your own when you own a house. And so $2,000 a month, especially in Miami, isn't really that much money. And some years, you might be able to get away with not spending that extra $2,000 a month on the maintenance of your house. But being in South Florida, the weather here wears down every single type of property because of the heat, because of the moisture, the rain, the humidity. It all makes it so that your property takes a beating. And then if you have one big windfall expense with your house, like say you need a new roof, especially like a new roof on this house, like a barrel tile roof, that's a pretty big house with a barrel tile roof. I'll bet you replacing the roof on that house probably costs $60,000 or $80,000. That's 3 to 4 years of HRA fees right up front. And I'm not trying to tell people you should buy a condo or you should buy a house instead. It's really all personal preference and how you want to live and your lifestyle choices. But another thing is insurance costs, guys. I guarantee you that estimated $400 a month that we saw on that house is way underestimating the actual insurance cost of that house, which will close that monthly gap even further. Let's say the monthly gap is only $1,000 or $1,500 a month difference. Well, now when you factor in all of the yearly expenses you have on a house, because remember Zillow just came out and said it costs you about an extra $18 or $20,000 a year depending on the house just for all the extra costs. That has nothing to do with your monthly payment. And in high cost of living areas like Miami, it's even higher than that. So, even when the savings look significant, we're talking $2,000 a month difference between buying the house and buying the condo, your real-world savings after all your maintenance costs and expenses on owning the house might be a lot smaller than you might think, And the house could actually end up costing you more depending on the levels of repairs and maintenance that you have to do. So, just keep that in mind whether you're shopping for a house or a condo and really understand the difference in cost. Obviously, the larger the cost gap is, the more enticing it is to buy a single-family home, but the smaller the cost gap is, in reality, there might not be any cost gap at all. And owning the house could actually be more expensive. So, just keep that in mind. Obviously, there's different lifestyle choices involved here, whether you want to have a yard, raise a family, don't want to deal with an HA, all that stuff. I get it. Not going to jump into that. I just wanted to point out that how much it's going to cost you and the difference might be non-existent or a lot less than you think. Personally, I live in a condo here and there's a lot of things I hate about it. There's also a lot of things I like about it, especially in terms of lifestyle and my ability to leave for long periods of time like I do. But I've also looked into buying a house here in Miami. And 100% it is going to cost me more, a lot more actually, per month in order to buy a house here and leave the condo. So, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you like, share and subscribe to the United Kingdom Real Estate Report channel. See you in the next video.